Well, we've got Mr. Craig Hurst here with Gearbox Adventure Rentals. Thanks for coming to hang out, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Dude. Thank you for having me.
So how has 2020 been for you?
Man.
That's a good way to sum it up.
Okay. Yeah, I got
Very dynamic. I mean, we've been, as a business, super fortunate where a lot of people, have had a rough year. We've been very fortunate. Our industry is exploded, but personally, just dealing with just the mask and stores and regulations, and you can't go eat here, and you can't. That's aggravating, but
that's good for business because everybody wants to get outside now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's been interesting. I'll just say that, interesting, because it's definitely been there. It's been great in a lot of aspects, but just nobody. I'm sure nobody enjoys this.
Everybody's like 2020. Woo!
Yeah, maybe besides like the super introverts at the very beginning, they were all about it.
Right.
I'm not an introvert though. I can't stand being at home, working from home. Being trapped inside. It's not my thing.
Well, you've got a really cool business, man. Gearbox Adventure Rentals.
Thank you.
And so basically, you're renting out modded out vans that you've built yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And people take these things all over the country and
do
really cool trips. And your Instagram is just awesome, man.
You guys are a prime example.
Yeah. So was it 2 summers ago? We rented one of your vans and drove it out to Zion National Park.
Yeah. That was 2 years ago?
I don't know. Was it 2 years ago? Yeah, 2 years ago.
Dude.
Yeah, that is crazy.
It's time flies.
Which
man.
van did y'all take?
Katie would know the answer. What van
was it?
Did
The
we
high
take?
roof? Was it the one you could stand up in?
It was a transit.
Or is it the
Mad Hatter?
Okay, the Mad Hatter. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. And so we drove that out to Utah, Zion National Park. Took 3 days out there. Spent like 2 or 3 days there, and then drove back and just made a whole trip out of it.
Yeah.
And Zach, he's got a modded out Sprinter van of his own, so he followed us and. It was really cool, man.
Showed you the way.
Yeah, man.
I was able to stand up in my van, and I was like,
yeah. So we were able to.
Were you making fun of them the whole time?
Yeah.
But no, man, we had a really good time, and so I'm interested in how you got started doing this, and where did the idea come from, and yeah.
Gosh, it's so complex. I feel like anybody that started a business, it's not just. I mean, for me at least, it wasn't just like one thought or one thing, but really. I grew up, this is going to sound like I'm about to make this a super long story. I'm going to make it quick. When I was younger, I was very inactive, didn't play sports, spent a lot of time inside, was, just that overweight kid that played on the computer all the time, played video games. Like that was me. And real kind of introverted, maybe not introverted, but shy, insecure, all that good stuff. Went off to college and started working in retail of all things. I'd come out of my shell before then, obviously, but started working in retail, worked in at an outdoor store, and everybody that worked there were like super big into kayaking, hiking, backpacking, camping, and I had never done any of that. My family were never big campers. My dad was a big hunter, and so the closest thing we did to the outdoors was like going and killing animals out in the woods. So, so I had a different perspective on the outdoors. I always loved the outdoors when we would go hunting. Like I loved just being out in the woods, but really fell in love with it in college, and then fast forward a few years, and it really like changed my whole life. I started, working out, exercising, hiking, backpacking. We would go kayaking every weekend. Met a lot of super cool people. Like my music taste changed. Like the whole thing, it just like changed my whole being, and my friend group. And I just like really connected with that kind of thing, like being outdoors and hiking, backpacking, camping.
Were there any like big trips that you took that was like the change? Like, oh man, dude, that one time I went to wherever.
Really we did a backpacking trip in the Sipsey Wilderness. I went to school in Florence, so we were kind of close to the Sipsey Wilderness, and went on a backpacking trip with some buddies, and it was just the most fun thing ever. And then we went kayaking every single weekend. We did it every weekend, and that was just like, tie some drinks to the back of the kayak and
Sure,
just
man.
float. It was like a class 2 river, so we'd be floating backwards most of the time. Just we
Yeah.
didn't even know where your paddle was.
I haven't done the Sipsey River, but yeah, we had a guest on last week, Blaine, that does a lot of like fishing and stuff, and he showed some pictures and stuff from up there, and it's just like super majestic. I didn't even think it was in Alabama.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's in Alabama. It's cool.
The Sipsey is awesome. I hear, I've never experienced this, but I hear lots of ticks in the summer. So go in the fall or winter.
Okay. Good tip.
Yeah. But anyway, so fast forward a few years, I'm still super into the outdoors and the industry and all that stuff. Found this guy on social media. His name is, I always want to mess it up, Daniel Norris. He's a pitcher. He was a pitcher for the Blue Jays. He's a pitcher for somebody else now. I don't even know. But he lives in a Volkswagen bus. This dude's like, I don't know how much money he has, but I would assume he's a millionaire.
Is this the guy they made a movie about? Doesn't he have a movie out?
Are you talking about Into the Wild?
No. There's a movie about a pitcher, baseball dude.
Probably.
And then he lived in a van. He had millions, but he threw
that's
it all away to live in a van or something.
I haven't heard of that.
I don't know.
I don't know the facts on what the movie's called, but I think I know what you're talking about.
I need to check it out if it is him. But I just thought this guy was super cool because he's like super fit, super rich, living in a van, sponsored by all these crazy companies like Patagonia and I don't know, just random, cool companies. And I start following this guy, and then of course I just get down the van life rabbit hole. If any of you you've been down the rabbit hole, and so we've all seen anybody that's got like started that van life rabbit hole. It's like 5,000 YouTube videos later.
Yep. Yep. It's so true.
I was totally in love with that concept and just how easy it was because he would show these videos where he like camped out at the beach and woke up and like made some coffee and then jumped in the ocean and surfed and then got hungry and came back and made a grilled cheese and
just like no schedule,
took a nap, and I was like, this is amazing because like all of his clothes, his gear, his stove, his bed, his car, like it was all right there. And so from that point forward I just had to have a van, and I thought like there are a ton of people out there that probably grew up like me.
Do you know what year you had this revelation?
This was honestly, I am not a planner kind of person. I am just like, oh, that's a cool idea. Let's do that.
Sure. Yeah.
So, honestly, that was probably 2017, early 2017. Okay. Bought my first van in May of 2017. So it was probably just like a few months after discovering that I found a way to buy my first
so you're
van.
all in. Like, I'm doing this.
I mean,
this is for me.
And then what I realized was there were people renting these vans out west. Like there are tons of van rental companies out west, but there were none in Alabama. I think there were none in Tennessee, none in Mississippi. Like the Southeast had like one camper van rental company, and he had started like a month before me. And so, I was like, nobody's doing this. The South deserves cool stuff. Like, we're kind of like late to the show sometimes when it comes to cool stuff. But,
big time.
So I was kind of like, let's bring this to the South, and maybe nobody will get it, but maybe it'll be awesome. And so started with one super cheap van, bought a like $9,000 van with 100,000 miles on it, built it out myself with materials from Lowe's, didn't know what the heck I was doing. Just to test the concept, just see like would people be into this. And
so you bought the van with the intention of starting this business?
Yeah, because I mean I was working retail still. I couldn't afford to just have a second
take
vehicle,
off,
or to just dip out on my wife. So we started out just with the intention of like, well, I'll use it when I want to use it, and then other people can use it when I'm not using it or whatever, and then it really just kind of grew from there.
Okay, cool. So what was the first van that you bought, you said?
It was a 2013 Ford Transit Connect. So it's like minivan size, like real small.
Okay. Now, what was the Mad Hatter, the van that we rented?
It's a Ford Transit.
That was a
so
Transit.
There's a Ford Transit Connect, which is, like I said, minivan size. And then the Ford Transit comes in 3 different sizes. There's a low roof, medium roof, and high roof. The one that you guys took out is a medium roof.
Medium roof, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's bigger. It's a lot bigger than my first van, but it's still, not standing height for most people.
Sure. How long did it take you? I mean, you just watching YouTube videos, and
Yeah.
do you have anybody that's like,
That's what we
hey,
all
this
do,
is
man.
how, I mean, you just winging it. And
Made a ton of mistakes. Probably.
what were some of the mistakes? If you can name one that you were like, oh,
So
God,
the sink.
why did I do that?
The sink. Oh my God! Still to this day, the sink was the worst. There was no room for a sink because basically the van was so small that the whole van had to be the bed. So
You're not getting a sink. Sorry.
No, and so I already had a stove that would pull out, and you can like search way back in the Instagram or whatever and find Alice in Wonder Van, which was our first van. And
Yeah, see if you can pull it up.
yeah, you're gonna have to go way back, just the very, very beginning. See if I can find that bad boy.
I'll find it. And I'll pull it up.
Cheryl, our social media girl, shout out Cheryl.
Shout out Cheryl.
She has
Hey, that was our trip up there.
Was
Scroll
it?
back up towards right there in the middle. Go back up a little bit more, middle spot.
boom.
Boom.
Oh, yeah, that's
Oh,
us.
yeah,
that was
nice.
us in the desert. So
Famous.
there's
Out
Zach's.
in Arizona.
Yeah, man. That was actually we were on our way back, and I was like, I got to spend the night, at least one night in the desert. I just always wanted to do that. So,
Dude, the bad part is, though, so this is in Arizona, and this is when Arizona was on fire. And so
Isn't it always on fire?
yeah.
So we were like just outside. I don't know how far out we were from the fire, but the smoke.
Yeah.
I think we were worried about at night. Like, man, we're out here in the middle of nowhere. We're not
What
going to
if
be
we
able
get
to see
trapped? Yeah.
any of the stars because of all
Oh.
the smoke. But it really wasn't that bad.
It actually gave us like a really wild sunset.
Really?
It was really
Yeah.
cool, like just all the haze in the background. But anyways, it took away from
No,
what
no,
you
no. We actually went out west a few months ago, and the Grand Canyon wasn't that awesome because of the fires. It was like super smoky. You couldn't really even see.
Dang.
Dang,
Yeah, I mean, it's all right. We'll go back. But
everybody's burning down. So anyway, she'll try to find that picture.
yeah,
of the earlier
so there it
van.
was. If you go back up a little bit, up a little more, the middle van, that's Allison. Obviously, you can't see the inside, but you can see that surfboard next to it for comparison.
That's such a cool photo, though, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
and the
buddy.
graphic work you did on the side, or
Yeah.
whoever you got to do it.
Yeah,
Really
I
cool.
did it.
That's awesome, man. So
Yeah.
that was your first van.
That was the first van, Allison, and I found out pretty quickly that it wasn't big enough.
Pretty tiny van.
Yeah, and going back to your question, I haven't even answered that yet. The sink. So I started trying to get super creative with like, how can I use quick disconnects and like put the sink in the door and have it fold out and all this crazy stuff. And a normal sink wouldn't fit, and so I was like using like mixing bowls from your kitchen and like drilling holes in
Yeah.
them and like,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, doing all this crap.
I've seen plenty of those.
Yeah, lots of crazy stuff that ultimately was just a waste of money.
Did you ever have a working prototype?
Yeah, I mean, they all kind of worked.
And then you get a phone call, somebody in like the Mojave. It's like, hey, the sink is not working.
Fell off the door.
Well, I was trying to overcomplicate it, and what I realized was it was so complicated that it wasn't. It was more of a hassle. No one used it because it was just a hassle. It was like I had a foot pump and all these quick disconnects and water tanks and all this crazy nonsense. And ultimately, I ended up doing one of those shower bags. Have y'all seen those? They're just like the plastic
Yeah.
bag that you fill up with water and you like hang it in a tree and let it
Yeah.
get hot and then
Yeah.
take a shower. I put one of those in there, and then I got this collapsible sink, like a rubber, like off of Amazon collapsible sink. And I was like, if you want to do dishes, you pop it out, you throw this thing on the roof, and you do dishes, and then you throw the water out.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I just simplified it, and it was fine. But there were 2 or 3 prototypes. I ripped the door panel out like 4 or 5 times, and the whole van was like that. Just, you know.
How long did it take you to get that first van? Besides the sinks that probably changed throughout the time, but before you got your.
So I bought it in May, and the plan was at the time I was working at an outdoor store doing retail, and I was building the vans on nights and weekends. And the plan was when it gets done, I'll just do this on nights and weekends when I can meet people when I'm not working. Ended up losing my job in August. May, June, July, August, yeah. And then I think I finished the van. So then I worked on the van. I was like, okay, I can either go find another job and just do this all over again, or I can just jump in. And I just decided to jump in. Fortunately for me, I was able to get unemployment during that time. And so unemployment kind of held me over for a little bit while I got the company going, and started in I think I finished the van in October, maybe. So May to October
of 2017.
Yes, and then May to August was very part time, and then August to October was very full time. So it took a while. I don't know how many months that is, but I knew nothing about it.
So when you start renting this van out
Yeah.
to people, just you put your name out there, you start an Instagram account, start building the name.
Yeah.
And how did you come up with the name Gearbox?
That's another really long story. So
Cliff Notes.
yeah, Cliff's Notes.
Or tell us the long story, man. We're here as long as you are, man.
You
It
can
doesn't
chop
matter.
it up. A few years ago, I had this like huge dream for this big property that people can come to, and we'll have like food truck rallies and movie nights and like a gear shop and a coffee shop and like a lounge and campgrounds and all this cool stuff and camper van rentals. And that was the plan, was to have all this stuff. Well, the shop was kind of inspired from, I feel like a lot of the gear shops that we have are not gear shops. They're just like boutiques that happen to also carry climbing gear. And so I felt like Birmingham needs like a gear shop, like where people who actually hike and actually climb can come get like real gear that works.
Versus people just trying to look cool at the mall. Or
Yeah.
something. Okay.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think that's definitely necessary.
But maybe they just don't carry the extent of gear.
What I found is that the shops that I worked at never seemed to have the like very necessary gear, like fuel for your camp stove, like very basic things for camping. So I wanted to start this gear shop, and it was going to be made out of shipping containers. And so I felt like the Gearbox would be like a cool name for the gear shop that was in a shipping container. And I was going to be like Gearbox Coffee and Gearbox, the Gearbox. And, I just was basically naming everything Gearbox this, Gearbox that. And then I got
a grand plan here for this whole thing.
So Gearbox Adventure Rentals is where the camper van thing was going to be called. And so when I looked at it all, it's like, well, how much is it going to cost to start the coffee shop? How much is it going to cost to start the gear shop? It was like millions of dollars.
Oh, sure.
I was like, no, I can't do that. And I was like, well, I can do this camper van thing for like 15 grand or so.
Okay.
And so nabbed up a Chase credit card and got a loan on a van and
just went for it.
and
man.
then went for it. So the plans changed a lot, but the plan was that would, once that became successful, that would then we'd go start the coffee shop, and then we'd go start the gear shop, and so on and so forth. But
okay.
obviously things have changed a lot.
Sure.
Yeah.
So after you first got that van up and running and you got the name out there and started getting people interested, and how many rentals would you say you had that first?
Oh, God. So I didn't have any rentals for the first 3 months, maybe even 4 months.
Really?
Yes. And I was like pulling my hair out, like, what am I doing wrong? What's the problem? And I was doing no marketing. I mean, I had social media, and I was just praying to God people would find me via social media. I don't think I was doing anything besides social media, and I redesigned my website like 20 times. And
It's the website. That's the reason.
And I mean, like swapping providers and like, I'm just racking my brain. Like, why is nobody doing this? What's the problem? It was probably because it was super sketchy, because I didn't know what I was doing, and I was just trying to like help people go out on adventures.
Do you remember the first person that rented?
Yes, absolutely. And of course, now that you asked, I'm blanking on their names, and that's going to be very important for me to look up in a minute.
We can edit that in. Don't worry about
they
it.
were the most super freaking cool people.
But they're not like family. It's like people just random, like a real customer.
Yes, a real customer. And it's so funny because I just told, I'm going to have to think of their name. That's going to drive me nuts. Super nice people. They live in Hoover. I could drive you to their house right now because I delivered the van. And they were going out on a baby moon. And I'm so sorry that I can't think of their name. They were going out on a baby moon, and they were the first renters. And I did not want them to know they were the first renters because
Trying to play it cool.
Yeah.
We do rentals all the
Oh,
time. I'm
we've
glad
got-
I could squeeze you in.
yeah, we got this procedure
I
here.
just picked up the van, got it
Yeah,
cleaned
let me
for
get
you.
this paperwork stuff,
Awesome.
Yeah, so it's super. But I just told her. She called me. I'm dying that I can't think of her name. She called me. She's very involved with the Cahaba River Keeper, or maybe it's Coosa River Keeper, one of the river keepers. And she called me a couple of weeks ago, and I actually told her, "Hey, did you know you guys were my first customer ever?" And she was like, "No, I had no idea. You played it so cool, And I was like, "Oh, great," because I was
awesome, man.
totally scared out of my mind. But they had an awesome trip, and
That's got to be nerve-wracking seeing your van pull off.
All that work, man, and it's just like driving off into the sunset, and you're like, "Oh, dude, please don't just drive off a bridge."
Yeah, no, definitely, because I had no clue, but it worked out really great, and I couldn't have asked for better first customers. For the most part, if you're renting a camper van, you're probably a pretty cool person.
Sure.
So I don't get a whole lot of jerks, but
okay. So when you got your business started, I'm just curious, like, how, you go to State Farm and you're like, "Hey, I need to get insurance on this van, but I'm renting this van out to random people all the time."
That was a nightmare.
I bet it was.
That actually...
Well, just to insure a van that you've converted into an RV
is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took me a long time to figure all of that out. And that's one of the things that, like, I have people call me all the time that want to start camper van rental companies, and they're like,
"How did you do
this?"
this?
Exactly. Well, how do you do this? And will you tell me this? And, can I ask you a million questions? And I'm always like, I'm like totally down. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's hard to figure out. But no, ultimately normal insurance companies will not insure you if you tell them you're renting out your vehicle. So we had to get rental fleet insurance through like a specific company. And there are like 3 of them out there that most people use.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So after that first rental, did things start to pick up, or did it stagnate a little bit?
No, it was still very like 1 rental a month, and it was me kind of like, "Oh, I probably shouldn't rent to you, but I'm really glad that you want to rent a van." And so, just renting to like somebody. So I remember one family super early on, the mom rented it for her son. Well, he was old enough to drive, but he probably wasn't old enough to qualify under my insurance. I probably shouldn't rent him the van, but it's like super early in the business, and I'm just like super thankful for any customer.
Any customers at all?
Yeah, I was so glad. And so it was just real sporadic, like 1 rental here, 1 rental there. And honestly, I would say it wasn't until around the time that you guys rented from me was when things really had started picking up and like getting busy. And I was like, "Hey, this is a thing. Like, this is going to work." People are really digging this and finding out about it. And
was there any particular moment that the switch flipped, or
I think
at what point did you feel confident, like, "Hey, I'm going to mod out another van"?
Well, so I actually did that. I don't want to say prematurely at all, but I did that earlier than, if you looked at the numbers, you would have been like, "No, don't do it.
Don't do it." Yeah. You're like, "I'm going in. I'm getting another one."
Well, no, it was just like, I realized that the reason why most people the people that weren't renting, the reason why they weren't renting was because it was a tiny van. It was a 2-person van. You had to convert the kitchenette into a bed every night. There was no heat. There was no, it was just like, you're taking in the Southeast, a lot of people still have an RV mindset. And so they're like, "Where's the TV? Where's the AC? Where's the, refrigerator?" And at the time, my first van had a cooler, a tiny little 300 watt, like bought at a truck stop inverter.
Yeah.
And, overhead lights. And like that was it.
A cool little igloo cooler. Here
No,
you go.
for real.
Complimentary igloo cooler.
That was
stocked
really
it with ice for you.
I actually, random sidebar, I built the van and then tried to find a cooler. Terrible idea. Find the cooler and then build the cabinet around it. And so I ended up luckily at work, I ended up having this Mountain Khaki. Are you guys familiar with Mountain Khaki, the pants brand? They make Alabama Outdoors, Mountain High, REI. They all sell Mountain Khaki.
Okay.
But they also make these coolers randomly, and I found a Mountain Khaki cooler that fit in there. But yeah, what I realized was if I could build a bigger van that fit families, because we would have tons of families call all the time and say, "Hey, we want to carry our kids. Do you have a bigger van?" And it felt like every week I was like, "No, sorry." So
okay, so that's some motivation.
Yeah,
there. It's
so
like,
it was more or less like, and the company kind of started based off of a book called, as far as the way that I did it was based off of a book called the lean startup, where you basically you launch with a mediocre product that and then you get a lot of feedback from your customers, and then you build the product they actually want based off of their feedback.
Okay.
So that was kind of
the lean startup.
yeah. So I started with a leanly, with a cheap van with high mileage and that kind of thing, and didn't build it out very extravagantly. Theoretically, I should have thrown a mattress in the back and said, "Have fun." That would have been the real
Just see
lean
how it
startup.
goes.
Yeah.
The diehards only.
But after getting all that feedback, built the second van, and that's probably when the switch flipped. That's when.
Was that the Mad Hatter? Was the
Yes,
second
that's
van?
the van you guys took
Okay,
out,
cool.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, man. After you had those first two vans up and running, and you're renting them out, and you're getting steady business, were there any things that you learned really quickly as oh, I should not have done that?
Absolutely.
Or maybe as far as
Every day.
Every day. Okay.
Every freaking day. I still do it. Today I learned something I should have done.
Okay. Because I know that when we were in Zion, it's 105 every day,
Yeah.
and we had a problem with the fridge not working, and I hated to bother you.
Yeah, well.
But I was like, I'm doing something wrong. The fridge is not working.
Yeah.
All our food's about to spoil. What do I do? And then you're trying to talk me through it, and so I could think about that later from your perspective, getting calls of people being who knows where with whatever problem. You know what I mean?
But we found out later it was nothing on the van. We just kept tripping the breaker at the
It was
campground.
something stupid. And once we figured it out, I was like, okay,
that literally happened this week. Somebody called me and they're like, "Hey, the fridge isn't working, but I'm plugged into shore power." And now I know. I said, "Hey, go check the breaker at the campground box and make sure it's not tripped." And she was like, "Oh, wow, it is tripped." She flipped it back and everything was fine. But she had been sitting there for 5 days. And
what?
And so, of course, the batteries are totally
completely drained.
Toast.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that kind of stuff still happens. But we learn a lot about, every van that we build, we get less and less calls because we've learned, okay, these light switches are terrible and they break every 3 months, and these USB ports go bad, and this, and so this material is not very durable, or we should have put a switch on this water pump, or whatever. And so we're constantly learning and making things better. And for example, the van you guys took out, the Mad Hatter, I rebuilt the refrigerator drawer 4 times because people kept forgetting to lock it, and then they would slam on the brakes, and the fridge, yes, exactly, rip the face off the cabinet.
Oh my God.
I replaced the face on that cabinet so many dang times. And so the last time I made it, and everybody told me, they were like, "Don't say it," but I said, "Let's see them break this." And so because I actually welded a metal drawer and painted it and did the whole thing. And so now it had 3 wood drawers, and now it has a metal drawer. So, just every van that we build, we learn, shouldn't have used that fridge, for example, should have built the drawer differently, which is also invaluable for us building vans for other people, because people call us and say, "Hey, I want to do this. I really like this product." And I can say, "Hey, we used that product for a year and it really wasn't that great. And, here's a product that I think is awesome." And so it's very valuable. We call it the rental test. We get to put stuff into the rental fleet and test it. And, because.
So you said are you guys building vans? Can I come to you and say, "Hey, I want a van of my own"?
Yeah.
You'll do that.
That's actually our main thing now.
How long have you been doing that?
Well, from the start, nobody
Just get tired of the van. You're like, "Okay, I'm gonna sell this."
Nobody trusted me to build their vans in the start, and they shouldn't have. But I've been saying it from day one. We rent and build vans, and
okay.
But yes, we're backed up. We should be backed up until July of 2021 for starting builds.
Dude, wow.
Yeah. So we have a lot of builds right now. We have
That's amazing.
5 or 6 vans sitting at the shop right now, being built out, other people's vans, and then we have a new van for the rental fleet that I just bought that we need to build out as well.
Whew, man, that's a lot of work.
It is, yeah.
It's so cool though.
Yeah, it's fun.
Cool.
So how big is your rental fleet right now?
It's very small. It's we have 3 vans in the rental fleet. And honestly, if I could snap my fingers and have more vans, I would. We could use a lot more. I just don't have the time to build them. I mean, if somebody comes to me and says, "I want you to build a van for me," it's hard for me to put my van in front of them
Right.
If that makes sense. And so we're at the point now where like I have to build another van for the rental fleet, or we're just turning down too many people. So we're adding to I'm hoping to add 3 vans to the rental fleet by next year.
What's your favorite so far? Do you like the Sprinter, ProMaster? You fond on the Transits?
It depends. If for the rental fleet, Ford Transits all day.
Okay.
Right now we have two Sprinters and 1 Ford in the rental fleet. And we've just had more problems out of the Sprinters.
Okay.
And when we have problems, they're usually expensive problems.
Yes, they are. Very expensive.
Yeah. And like I had a rear end, and it was user error, but I had to replace a rear end in one of my vans. Somebody dragged the axle on a rock, and then all the fluid dripped out, and then it burned up. It was great.
Dude.
The dealership wanted $10,000 to replace the rear end.
Sounds right. Right after I got mine, the turbo went out. It was like $5 or $6 grand to replace that.
Mm-hmm.
Then the brakes went out in my driveway, and my dad actually redid all the brake lines himself because we were quoted just this crazy amount to do.
It's crazy. Yeah. And so, and then the whole DEF fluid thing, which does your van have DEF fluid? Diesel exhaust fluid? How old is your van?
Mine's a 2008.
Okay, so you probably don't have DEF fluid. So
I think it's 2008.
All 2008s and newer, or 2009s and newer, have this emissions fluid called diesel exhaust fluid, and it's something that you have to put in just like gas. It's not as often as gas, but you have to fill it up frequently, like every 4,000 to 5,000 miles. Okay. You're having to put DEF fluid in.
Mine does not have that.
Yeah, that's great because it's a pain in the butt.
What's it for? Just
it's to cut down on the emissions that the van puts out.
And all that stuff.
Exactly. So teaching people that have never heard of that they now need to pop the hood and go find it at a truck stop and put it in the van.
Dang.
It's just like another thing that my number one goal is that people have a distraction-free adventure.
Right.
And that it is easy and it's fun.
On this trip, you're going to learn how to work on a Sprinter van.
Exactly. Here's how you pop the hood, and make sure you don't put gas in the diesel tank because that's an expensive mess up. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And when you get to Utah, you need to go see Bill.
Exactly. Yeah. If you break down in Utah, good luck. So it's really just the Fords are. You don't have to deal with DEF fluid. You don't have to. Most people drive gas vehicles, so I don't have to remind them not to put gas in the diesel tank.
Yep.
And then they're a lot easier to work on if something did happen out of state. It'd be a lot easier to find somebody that can work on a Ford.
Yeah.
So those are the big things. And to me, I'm going to irritate some people. I think they're just as nice in a lot of aspects. Obviously the Mercedes is a very nice van, but if I just had bukus of money and wanted to go buy a van for myself, it would be a Sprinter. But for the rental fleet, I think the Fords are awesome.
Just more durable, you think?
Yeah.
Mine's a Dodge. It's got a Dodge brand on it.
Yeah, Dodge Sprinter.
But they sold it off to Mercedes.
Yeah.
So I took it to Dodge, and they were like, we won't touch it. You have to take it to Mercedes, which is why it was so stupid expensive.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that sucked. Because it feels like Mercedes, they own the Sprinter branding.
Yeah, they do now, yeah.
I also wish mine was a 4-wheel drive. I wish they made the longer vans in 4-wheel.
Yeah.
You got to get the shorter ones.
Mm-hmm.
And they only just recently started doing that.
A
couple of years ago, last year, 2019, 2 years ago.
Were you ever in a situation where you needed 4-wheel and you're just like, dude?
Yeah, when we, I want to say in Utah, I wasn't with you then. I was in.
Yeah, we split off and came home, and you went to Joshua Tree. And
yeah, no, this was past Joshua Tree. I was at Lake Tahoe. I forget where I was, but yeah, I got off in some scary situation.
BLM land or something.
Yeah, and I'm in this huge 20-foot van up in this super narrow trail going straight up, and it's just not doing it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm gonna have to back out of this.
Way
and I
down
did.
a sketchy hill.
I had to back down the entire thing all the way back out to the main road.
That's
and I'm
scary.
like, fuck, I wish I had 4-wheel drive.
That's crazy.
So
have you ever had clients that have rented your vans and gone off to Timbuktu and had accidents or had problems or gotten stuck or any major things where you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to fix this problem?
No, I mean, we actually just had our first like body damage a few months ago. We had a girl that was at a campground. She actually rented the van for almost 2 months. It was a very long rental. And she was at a campground and was pulling out. And you know how they have those like 4x4 posts,
Sure.
you know, marking the campground. She cut the wheel too early and like dragged it down the back of the van. That's really the only thing we've had. We've had people lock the keys in the car before, but all of our rentals come with roadside assistance included. So they just called the 1-800 number. Somebody came out there and unlocked it. It was all included. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So you got a pretty solid model on how to
yeah.
handle most problems that people would experience.
Yeah, and we try to sell the vans before they reach a certain mileage so that we limit, you know, mechanical issues like that.
Okay. Because I think when we rented the Mad Hatter and took it out to Zion, you had a package that was something like you pay a certain fee and you get unlimited mileage.
Yeah, I did away with
like
that real quick.
Buddy.
I was about to say, was that a hard lesson learned?
Brave.
Did we ruin that for you?
That's
or,
a great way to lose money. Yeah, for all of you out there wanting to start a camper van rental company, don't do unlimited mileage. I'm just kidding.
So what are some of the other things that you may have learned over time that were just like maybe just eating away at profit, or just things that you were like, this just doesn't work? You know, it sounds good on the surface, but
yeah, I mean, honestly, the mileage packages were the biggest thing, because when I first started, I was so desperate for people to try it that it was just like whatever they said, you know, like, oh, whatever you want, I'll do it. and that's fine. That's great to have that customer service. But ultimately, you know, at first it was 100 free miles a day and then 25 cents a mile for every mile after that. But a lot of people wanted to go out west, and they're like, oh, that's going to be, you know, $600, you know, for mileage. And so I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Let me fix that for you, you know. And then so I started making these mileage packages. And so I had like 200 free miles a day, or 200 miles a day, 300 miles a day, and then unlimited. And literally like the first month I did unlimited mileage, I had a couple rent a van for like, I think it was like 7 or 8 days, and drove to Washington State.
Wow.
Yeah.
As far as you can go.
And paid me $23 a day to drive to Washington for the mileage, to drive to Washington State and back. And when I did the math, I was like, oh my God, I just lost so much money. I just lost so much money. Like I had to buy new tires and like get an oil change. You know, it was just like, you know, the windshield was cracked. It was just like,
oh man,
it was a great learning experience. So we did away with the unlimited mileage, and then still had the mileage packages. And then ultimately, the only reason I did away with those, it's not necessarily that they weren't profitable or whatever, because I don't filter. That's not my like number one filter.
Sure.
But it's just that it was too confusing to explain. When I would try to explain how the mileage was calculated and how it worked, I felt like I could see math equations going in people's heads, like, you know, going across the screen or whatever. So
because everybody wants to make sure they're not getting ripped off or whatever.
Absolutely, yeah. So we just went back to, you know, honestly, my initial model is what we do now. We went back to that, which is 100 free miles a day. So if you rent for 5 days, you get 500 free miles. And then any mileage over that is just charged at 25 cents a mile. So if you drive 1,000 miles, that's $250. If you drive 100 extra miles, it's $25. It's simple.
Sure.
It's easy to do the math. I can do it on my phone real quick, you know, if somebody calls, and there's no like super complicated stuff. And
right.
Yeah. And then people would always like, oh, we didn't know we were going to drive this many miles. Can we change our package to this and change our package to that? It wasn't worth it.
Just mid-trip.
Yeah, it just wasn't. And it, not that I mind doing that. It just ultimately, I think, was just a distraction from the adventure, which is really all that matters.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Was there anybody else? You said at the time that you started, there was maybe one other guy in town doing this.
Yeah, and he's in Atlanta.
Okay. So in the Southeast in general, or just maybe in this part of the country, how many, you know, the whole van life craze, have you seen other companies kind of come into this marketplace and start doing this thing? Is it all the rage?
Yes, it is. I literally felt like, you know, you see these guys like surfing these huge waves, and there's like, you know, 40 people, you know, and they're all waiting for the wave. And I was like one of the guys on the wave, and there was like, you know, a lot of other people. We all kind of jumped on within like literally 2017. At the beginning of 2017, as far as I know, there were 0 camper van rental companies in the Southeast. And by 2018, I think there were like 6 or 7.
Wow.
Yeah. And there's 2 or 3 in Tennessee. I think we're still the only one in Alabama. Now there are people who like rent RVs and also happen to have a camper van or whatever, but we're the only ones that just do camper vans, as far as I know. Now there's 2 in Atlanta. There's 1 in Memphis. There's 1 in Nashville. There's 2 in Asheville. Like they're just, they've really like it's exploded, and it's probably like 6 or 7 different companies. Like it's not just like one company that's taken over the South. It's like a bunch of different people.
A lot of small businesses.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think, obviously it seems like every episode that we've done so far, COVID comes up. How has COVID affected your business in 2020 versus maybe 2019 or 2018?
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely had to let some stuff roll off our back. When March hit, I was like, I'm in the wrong business, and might be time to sell everything and pack it up, at least that first month. So when March hit and nobody knew what was going on, businesses are shutting down.
Nobody's going anywhere.
Media's freaking out. Yeah. We're all like in our basement wearing 2 masks, like,
got the tinfoil hat.
Yeah,
everything,
exactly.
The whole nine. Yeah.
There's water bottles everywhere waiting for the aliens to come. And when that happened, we had so many people. I mean, so many people called and cancel. And so, that's money that we already had some of that money, and then the rest of it is money that we were expecting that we're no longer going to get. Mm-hmm. And so we had to kind of figure out, well, this is not really anyone's fault. And so we don't want to be like, I don't want to be like, oh, sorry, our cancellation policy says this, and you only get back part of your money and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And so we tried to come up with a way, like, how can we not completely go out of business, but also people feel like they're not being cheated? And so what we came up with is if you rented and then had to cancel your trip because of COVID, or because, I was going to go to this music festival, or I was going to go to this state, and now they're not camping or they're whatever, we would basically allow you to apply 100% of your money towards a future rental without losing a dime. Whereas normally, because of the way that, if you rent a van and then the day before decide you don't want to rent anymore, well, you've
turned down 5 other rentals.
Exactly. And so we have to, there's a whole step system for like, depending on how long you wait to cancel, how much money you get back, that kind of thing. But we basically just threw that out the window and said, if you're canceling because of COVID, you can keep all your money and just reschedule your adventure, which has been monumental. But then all it took was everybody being at home for about a month.
Like, dang, we gotta get outside.
They were like, yeah, what can we do,
dude,
where we can be distanced, or we can choose who we want to be around, and I mean, how many people did you see that like you've never seen in your neighborhood before, and now all of a sudden they're all walking, riding bikes, running, and so I feel like a ton of people that literally never leave their house all of a sudden, I don't know, felt the need to leave their house. And so it exploded right after COVID. Obviously, we really didn't have to make a lot of changes because we already are real cautious with like disinfecting things and cleaning things. And I'm a bit of a perfectionist when it comes to like organization and cleanliness, especially as it pertains to the vans and our customers. And I feel like they're paying a good bit of money, and they deserve to have a clean, organized, functioning vehicle. It's just an expectation. So we really didn't have to change a whole lot. Obviously, we had to make sure that the chemicals and things that the cleaning supplies that we were using were,
COVID compliant.
Yeah,
I guess.
Exactly. Okay. So other than that, I mean, normally when we would get the vans back from a customer, we just hop in and pull it in and park it. And, then now we're having to like put on gloves and that kind of thing. But for the most part, and then obviously wearing masks when we're meeting with customers and that kind of thing. But we really didn't have to change a whole lot because we already were doing a lot of the things that we were supposed to be doing.
Well, that's cool, man. Yeah, we had, obviously you mentioned kayaking earlier, and my brother and I last summer got into kayaking, and that was in the height of COVID. And
oh, wow.
Just trying to find kayaks, like you couldn't find them anywhere. I went to like Bass Pro Shops, was talking to the guy. I was like, man, this is the kayak I want. This is in our price range. He's like, we can't keep them. They're gone as soon as we pull them off the truck.
Yeah.
And then we had a guest on a couple of weeks ago, owns a skateboard shop. Mm-hmm. And he was like, COVID has been awesome. We were selling skateboards left and right, man. I can't keep them in stock, And like, he was talking about other shops that can't keep certain products because people are just like wanting to get out of their house and explore other options, like independent things you can do.
Yeah. Camper vans are the same. They've exploded. I mean, even just parts for camper vans, impossible. Like 12 weeks back ordered on everything. Like everything is super back ordered. Like I tried buying tires today. Like all-terrain tires are back ordered.
It's crazy.
Just random stuff.
So how big is your team now? Like, what does it take to run Gearbox? Is it?
Yeah. So we're growing a lot, and we're adding to the team a lot. Because I want to keep up. I want to try to keep up, You
said you want to add more to the rental fleet, and obviously you're backlogged as far as like building the vans.
Yeah, so we have 4 full-time builders right now that are in the shop Monday through Friday. And then we have a rental fleet manager who handles 100% of the rental fleet, phone calls, quotes, emails, meeting customers, cleaning vans, all that. And then we have, I guess you'd call her an admin that's starting on the 28th, full time. Super stoked about that because she's gonna help me do a lot. I spend 60 hours a week on the computer, and I hate that.
Oh my gosh,
I hate that. If anybody out there knows what the Enneagram is, I'm an Enneagram 7, and computers are like kill me. I don't want to be in a spreadsheet right now. So we've got an admin that's going to come take a lot of that, like part ordering and quoting and estimates, and like I love talking to customers is my favorite thing. Like I could like leave the spreadsheets and the ordering and the insurance and all this.
So if we rent a van, we're probably gonna have you coming up delivering the.
I
giving
try
us the
to.
run to.
Yeah. So we have a shop now, and we still deliver vans, but we're trying to create this incredible experience at the shop where you almost don't want to leave the shop because you're having so much fun there.
Okay.
And I still, even though Josh interacts with 100% of our customers, I try to also, like, when they come to the shop, I try to like meet them all and see everybody, because it's the best part, hearing about people like, oh yeah, we're going up to Cloudland Canyon and we're gonna see this waterfall, and like I don't know, I just love hearing, or like this is my son's first camping trip. Like that's awesome. That is incredible. Like I'm so stoked that y'all are going on your first camping trip in a Gearbox van. So I love hearing all those stories. Then when they get back, just hearing, how awesome it was. So that
was gonna be my next question. Was you said you have a shop?
Mm-hmm.
I imagine you started out building these in your backyard or something.
Yeah.
Where is the shop located?
It's in Fultondale, which is kind of where I grew up in Gardendale. It's basically right next door.
Sure.
Started in the driveway. We don't have a garage, so that would have been nice. Started in the driveway.
Those rainy days, man. But we got to get it done.
I have a picture of me with a 10 by 10 event tent over the back of the van, and I was like cutting wood and building my first van.
That's what we did.
Yeah.
The first day I had electricity in the van was just like
amazing.
It changed everything.
Amazing. Yeah.
It changed everything.
I'll never forget. Do you have like running water and a sink and that kind of thing?
No.
I'll never forget the first time I turned on a sink in a van. I was like, how cool is that? There's water running out of this sink.
That's right.
So I completely get that. And I worked in the driveway for a while. Second van, moved to my parents' basement, which the van actually wouldn't fit in their basement. So I moved to my parents' driveway. But their basement was bigger, so I was able to have more supplies. Then the third van, I moved to my family owns a towing company in Fultondale. It's called Hurst Towing, and they have a huge shop, and they had a bay that they weren't really using. And so I moved into one of their bays and built the third van and a few customers' vans out of that shop. And we just really kind of outgrew it. Like we've only been in our shop maybe 4 months. So outgrew it and just decided to.
How many vans have you guys churned out for customers at that shop?
At the new shop?
At the new shop. Or total. How many vans have you built, like just like for customers that had come to you and just wanted to build?
I'm just going to ballpark so I don't sit here all day having to do math, but I would say like 7 maybe.
Okay. Cool.
So it's funny because it sounds like not a lot.
But I can imagine all the work that goes into one van, because I've learned from him.
And what's amazing is we follow these guys online that are, have you heard the couple 40 Hours of Freedom, Sarah and Alex James? Yeah. So they were full-time van lifers. Now they build vans. And they build vans just all the time. They have a waiting list till the end of, forever, because they have like millions of followers and subscribers and that kind of thing. And the other day they were like, we just finished our 11th van. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe you've only built 11 vans. But then I'm like, that's a lot of vans when you look at like how much you learn each time and how long each van takes. Some of our builds take 4 months. And we've only been in business 3 years.
So I'm curious, like if I come to you and want you to build a van, do you kind of have like a list of things like here's what we can do for you and here's what you can change to kind of customize it to your own? Or can I come to you with some crazy design? Like I would like a hot tub in the back and all this other stuff. Like how do you guys like kind of narrow that down so you're not just building this wacky stuff? Or maybe nobody's really asking those questions. I don't know.
Well, no, I mean, it's one of those things. So the build business, even though it's the same company, kind of is its own company. And so we've gone through the same growth phases as the rental company, where when we started, it was just like the sky's the limit. You want a unicorn on the roof?
Sure,
awesome.
We'll do it. Yeah.
Whatever you want, we'll do it. Thank you for your business, And we're at a point now where there's so much work, and there's like the time versus benefit trade-off. We have to just we've got kind of some parameters of what we do and don't do. But for the most part, we still do custom builds. All of our builds are custom at the moment. And we're working through right now designing a kind of a foundational offering that...
Sort of like a template maybe.
Yeah, somewhat of a template where if you want it quick and, you want to not spend an arm and a leg, which that's a relative thing to say to everybody has a different opinion about that. But we have this kit, so to speak, that includes this, and this, and it's this much money, and we can do it in a month. And it uses these products, and it's always these same products. And, do you want solar? Yes or no? Do you want a second bed? Yes or no? Do you want your kids to be able to buckle up in the back? Yes or no? That kind of thing. Yeah. And so we're trying to really narrow it down so that people that don't want a hot tub in their van can get a van like fairly quick and affordable, because we'll be able to do things quickly because we do the same things. But I think, it'll be a while before we stop doing custom completely, and if we ever do. But right now, so the way that it works is you come to us and you tell me what your goals are, and I can help guide people through that process. Like, they'll say, well, I love going out west, and I want to be able to park on BLM land for 6 days without having to plug up, and it's me and my dog, and I want to have an air conditioner because my dog gets hot, whatever. Those kind of run me through. And I'm real big into mountain biking, so I want everything to be super durable so I can just throw my gear in there. And so then we can kind of guide them through, awesome, that, this flooring is incredible. It's super durable. I think you need this much solar because you want to be off grid for this many days. And really just kind of help guide them through those kind of things. And then we can talk about aesthetic and, color palettes, and it goes on and on and on. And, but, for the most part, we can kind of, in a van, there's only so many places you can put things, like I want overhead cabinets. Well, it can go here, here, or here. Right. And so
your options are kind of limited to a degree.
Yeah, to a degree. I've actually seen a Japanese soaking tub in a camper van, so I won't say that your options are limited. It's nuts.
If you can dream it, it can be done.
Get on YouTube and type in camper van Japanese soaking tub. It's a real thing.
Wow.
It's nuts.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll check that out.
Okay.
It's I can't imagine how much water it would take to fill that up.
Yeah, exactly.
And how much weight that would be.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That is crazy. So is there like a common thing that most people want that are pretty much included in every van? Or maybe some things like we don't necessarily need a shower, or we don't necessarily need
I found out I needed a shower.
Yeah.
Right after I built mine out, I was in it maybe a year. And I was like, screw it.
Do you live in it full time?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I think it's for full timers. A shower is.
But I was like,
important.
I don't have a toilet. I didn't have a shower. I was like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. And then it was like
week 4 of baby wipes.
I built it in the summer, or I lived in it during the summer, lived in it during the winter, and I'm like, I'm tired of walking to the bathhouse. Like, I want a shower in my van.
Yeah.
So I like ripped out the whole back half of my van and built a standing shower.
Nice.
Put a hot water heater in it.
Very cool.
Same as you. I was like, where am I going to put the sink now? I had to move the sink on the opposite side.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a whole.
It's like Tetris.
Yeah.
And I always tell, I hate to say this to people because it's a little disheartening, but generally speaking, you're going to build your first van and you're going to realize, well, I shouldn't have done this, or I should have done this, or I wish we had that. And we do our best to get rid of all that out on the front, but there are a lot of things that you think you need that you don't. And then there are a lot of things that you don't understand the importance of them until you don't have them. You know, toilet, bathroom, that kind of thing.
Someone that's building a camper van for the first time, what would you say is, if you could name, what's the most common mistake that you may see people do? That either something they add that they don't need, or something they need that they don't add?
I would say, and this is tricky because, well, everybody that's watching this, call me. Seriously. And I don't mean to even build your van, but like, I'll also get on the phone with you and chat, and like, you're going to spend so let me back up. What I would say is find someone who's done it and done it well, and just ask their advice, because you'll spend weeks trying to figure out which insulation to use, and then inevitably you'll find out you used the wrong one.
Yeah.
And so it's so much easier. Somebody can just call me and say, hey, what insulation should I use for my van? Well, Densolid or sheep's wool. The end. You know, they're both expensive, but they're great products. They're mold resistant. You know, this one is man-made, and they use chemicals to make it. This one is natural, and it's woven together and doesn't have any chemicals. You can get it here and here. It's just boom, boom, boom. It's super simple, you know? So I would just say, like, there are certain YouTube channels that you can find those people that have built multiple vans, and they can give you that advice. And I wish we would do a better job of filming things and like helping get that information out.
With all that free time you have, you know,
Yeah.
just crank up the camera and start a production
That's
company.
really the problem. Is I'm totally all about sharing all the information. I'm an open book. It's just like the time of producing videos and editing videos and all that kind of stuff, as you guys know.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
And so so I would just say find somebody that has done it and knows what they're doing. You'd be surprised how many van builders you can call and get a cool person on the phone and just like shoot the bull with them, and they'll tell you like, yeah, do this and do that. And, you know, there's lots of good information out there. But, you know, as far as one thing, I would say your electrical system is very important. You know, there's a great YouTube channel called explorist.life where they really go into like wire sizing and fusing and the importance of like, you know, just doing that right so your van doesn't catch on fire.
Yeah, that would be pretty
so
important.
hard,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, it is very
So finding somebody who actually knows what they're talking
Yeah, and there are a lot of like wiring schematics online and that kind of thing. And ultimately, just pay the money and do it right. That's another thing. I hate it. I hate to say it, but you ultimately get what you pay for. And for the most part, I mean, even the guys that build vans with us, it blows their mind how much this stuff costs. Like today, they installed this tire carrier, and they're like, how much was this thing? And I was like, well, this tire carrier, you know, the 2 doors, it was like $5,000, you know, and they're like, what? You know,
Yeah, man.
that costs more than my car.
That's
you know?
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's very expensive stuff, but like it's bomb proof. It's not, you know, the stuff on the inside, it's not going to grow mold, which is very important for your health.
Sure.
You're not going to be laying in bed having water dripping on your head if you're using the right sealants. You know, just go ahead and use the right products. Ultimately, products for your home are not made for vans for the most part. I mean, with the exception, we do use wood and we do use metal, which are both used in homes. But, you know, we use marine grade or automotive grade everything. So everything that we use is either made for the boating industry or like automotive industry. So I would say like look in those arenas when you're buying electronics, buy marine electronics, buy marine wiring, buy, you know, and it's going to cost more. You know, a spool of wire is
That's what I was gonna say. Don't be sticker shock.
Yeah.
Anything labeled marine.
It's crazy. Yeah. It's. I mean, a spool of wire is $200. It's like, God Almighty.
Yeah.
Why is this wire gonna do magic tricks for me and tell me jokes? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's nuts. But ultimately, it's not gonna rust and it's not gonna catch your van on fire.
Okay. Well, cool, man. Well, it sounds like the business is growing really well going forward. I know you mentioned earlier you had these grand plans of like the coffee shop. And, and
that
I don't
fits
know.
So
are we gonna
well with the van thing too? Like
to me,
farm or ranch people to come out to.
Yes.
That's
big
the
camping
dream
dream thing.
Amen. I believe it.
Any chances of that happening in the future?
I mean, Lord willing, I hope so. I mean, I don't feel like Birmingham needs another coffee shop. And we know a lot of great coffee people.
But I'm wondering, like, am I going to see, like, the Gearbox boating company startup or Gearbox kayaks or, just whatever?
I do have another company that we're starting in March of next year, Lord willing, that is not going to be called Gearbox anything. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it is adventure travel related.
Box gear.
It's going to be called Box Gear Adventure Rental. And
we're going to make kites.
Yeah, we're going to make, ultimately,
hot air balloons.
Everything that we want to do is to help people connect with their families and to make memories. Get off TV, get off your phone, like go breathe some fresh air, make some memories. Seize the day, whatever you want to say. And so hopefully everything that we do will fit inside of that, helping people connect, helping people have fun, adventure. So
that's really rad, man. It's really cool. Thanks for coming to hang out. And if people want to find your company and kind of see what you have going on, where can they find you?
So our website is gearboxrentals.com. And that's just because I thought gearboxadventurerentals.com was way too long of a domain. Gearboxrentals.com. You can Google Gearbox Adventure Rentals. You should be able to Google Camper Van Rental Alabama, Camper Van Rental Birmingham, and find us. And then our Instagram, same thing for Instagram. Just search Gearbox Adventure Rentals, and you can book a rental or learn about building a van right on our website, as well as common questions.
Okay. Well, cool, man. Well, thank you for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to come and talk with us. And I feel like I learned a lot. It's really cool, man.
Yeah, this is great.
Absolutely.